Hey, this is Board Game Rundown. We are live at Origins, and I have with me Dave Beck, the designer of Distilled, and we're going to have a little chat with him today. How are you doing?
I'm awesome, Spencer. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. You've been having pretty good Origins?
Yeah, it's been awesome. So it's every day it's been busy at our booth. Lots of people learning how to play Distilled or even just learning about it for the first time. And it's actually the first time we've been able to have actual product, actual games for people to buy here in the States. So it's really fun.
Yeah, that is exciting.
Yeah.
And I remember the first day I went over and I was talking with just one of your salespeople, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is my second job. My main job is I brew beer." And I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, I handpicked the helpers in my booth to have multiple expertise that overlap with Distilled.
Yeah, and we're just catty corner to them, so we're like always going over and chatting and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. We can see each other. It's like neighbors waving across the street, right?
Yep. So how did you come up with Distilled?
Yeah, great story. So Distilled all started back in the fall of 2019. I'm a college professor. I was lucky enough to have a sabbatical, which basically means that you have a certain amount of time you're not going to be teaching. You're able to just work, do research, explore, come up with new ideas for teaching. Well, I was lucky enough to propose and get accepted the idea that I would go to Scotland. I would go to Scotland and actually do virtual reality, augmented reality research because my area is video game design. Like that's, as a professor, that was my area.
Okay.
I'm over there. I'm doing that research. Again, fall 2019. I'm touring lots of distilleries, drinking a decent amount of whiskey, playing lots of board games. And I'm not kidding. One night, it just came to me like I couldn't sleep at night. Light bulb went off about a core mechanic in the game and how it could thematically pair with how alcohol is really distilled in real life.
Yeah.
So it all started a whiskey fever dream.
That is great.
Yeah.
I brew beer at home, so I'm a home brewer, and I've researched how to distill things, and so complicated, especially when you're starting getting into the shapes of the stills and things can affect the flavor.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really appreciate about Distilled is how you brought in the aspects like the tails and the heads. And so when you're playing the game, you're trying to make alcohol. Every alcohol needs to have 3 ingredients. And this is for real too.
Yeah.
Water, a sugar, and yeast. And if you're making beer, hops. And in the game, you then will shuffle those together, take off the top card, discard it back into your storeroom, because when you're actually doing the heads, the top card, you recycle it. And then the tail end, which is weaker, so they do the same thing, and that also goes in. I'm like, that's so ingenious.
Yeah, and that's what you just described. That was great description. That was perfect. That is what I thought of one night. It was actually originally Distilled was going to be a deck builder, and I had that concept in mind, right? So it was a deck builder for about 6 months. But I had that concept in mind. Like, what if I had players take the top and bottom card, but allow them to kind of play and mitigate that luck? And as you know, you can play this game kind of razor thin edge. I'm going to just push my luck to the limit and hope it works, which means you don't have to spend much money, but it might mean that you're not going to make the whiskey you want to make. Yeah. Or you say, I'm going to play extra safe. It's going to cost me a little bit more money to do that, but I will make sure to make what I need. And I really like that idea of giving the player agency to be able to kind of play their style, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I played this game 2 nights ago, and I had to apologize to my players because I taught them and I crushed them because I got really lucky. Every time I did it, I didn't get rid of the sugars that I needed to get rid of, and they're always getting what I needed. I'm like, okay. When you win by 100 points, you get the bad teacher award.
Yeah.
But it was, even though they lost, they had such a good time. They're like, yeah, we're going to go get this.
It's funny you say that because I hear that time and time again that, I didn't do very well at the game or I lost, but I still had so much fun. And I'd like to think, again, I don't know, but I'd like to think it's because we really try at Paverson Games, try and focus on theme, like bringing theme and mechanics together. So even if you don't win, you're still having a good time. You're still learning something, or visually it's something impressive to you. So I don't know. I'd like to think that that's a big part of that. And I think that's an important part of board games, is that it shouldn't be that winner's the only one that has fun at the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So,
and you can tell it's a passion project because when I open up the booklet and there are these little brown sections that tell you actual facts about distillery or distilling, and then there's biographies and things about all the different countries, and I'm like, this is amazing. And you have so many different kinds of alcohol, and I've never heard of most of these.
Yeah, it is. It's probably a little bit excessive. I like to say that I have about 150% worth of a game in the box.
Yeah.
Like, I maybe put a little too much in. I don't know. I just love the idea of being able to allow players to have more and more things. I probably should have cut that off and do an expansion, made lots of money, but like I just thought it's good to give you variety. You can have different choices. And back to what you said about Passion Project, fun facts in the book, those little details. And you're right. I think that might be the professor in me. Like, I am going to research the heck out of this game and I am going to teach you about this thing, right? But I think that's a fun opportunity for board games to do, to teach people something while they're having fun as well.
Well, so I like drinking. I like brewing. My wife's a professor, so...
Maybe there it is. Maybe so. Well done.
Yeah, I definitely like all those connections and learning something.
Yeah.
I just want to go through the book again and just reread all the cool little tidbits.
It's fun. We actually, I hired a what we call the spirits consultant for the game. So I knew a lot about this stuff. I'd done a lot of research, but I knew it would be great to have someone that kind of has this as a part of their living. So Blake Tucker, he lives out in California. He's actually going to be at Gen Con working at our booth.
Oh, nice.
He's actually a card in the game in the Africa Middle East expansion. He's got this lab coat on with all these buttons.
Cool.
That's him. Dr. Inkwell is what he goes by. And he does lots of kind of educational sessions on cocktails and mixing as part of his job. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is impressive.
Yeah, it's fun.
How did you learn about all these different kinds of alcohol?
Yeah, it was so actually, fun fact, when I came up with the idea in Scotland, it was just going to be about whiskey, nothing else. Single malt whiskey in Scotland, bourbon in America, it's rye in Canada, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I was convinced that was going to be fine, a game about whiskey. I was excited about it. I started doing the research on whiskey and, like you said, the procedure of distilling and all that. And very quickly, I discovered that whiskey is not the most popular, most consumed spirit on the planet at all.
Yeah,
Baijiu is. Baijiu and soju's close second. And I realized, whoa! It kind of put me in my place of, well, I'm so centralized to what I think.
Yeah, this Western ideal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was that point where I thought, I need to do this right. I need to educate people about all the things I've been discovering here, and let other people do this, and maybe even they'll have a little sample themselves.
Have you tried all of them?
Oh, yes.
Which one's your favorite?
That's part of my research.
Yeah. Which one's your favorite?
I actually think, well, whiskey's my favorite, but one that I was not that aware of before would be Pisco. So Pisco is made from grapes. It's from Peru.
Ooh.
And so it's distilled grapes. It's very much like grappa can be and brandy can be as well. Those also are kind of a equivalent to that. But it's got a really nice sweet flavor. It's usually clear. Sometimes they age it. If you ever find yourself in a Peruvian or probably any South American restaurant, honestly, you'll probably be able to get a hold of some Pisco. So be sure to give it a try.
Yeah, I'm probably going to make a list and go down the list and try every one of these. Yeah. But I'm going to keep my eye out for that one.
So what I do is I suggest to people that if they're new to Distilled and they have friends that maybe don't play many games, but do like a good cocktail, to consider maybe buying at least a couple of those different bottles. And then your first game, when someone makes Baijiu for the first time or Pisco for the first time, everyone has like a little sample of it around the table, right? So it's that idea of like merging these two things even more, and it probably will get some of those people that don't usually play board games a little bit more excited about that as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We need to get you on our Whiskey Wednesdays.
Yes, please. I watch your Whiskey Wednesday lots, and I do one too. So maybe we should do some sort of like crossover Whiskey Wednesday sometime.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can never do Whiskey Wednesdays because I have a standing obligation. But I'm sure Tim would love to.
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
If you can stop buffering.
Yeah.
Oh, and I really love the art, and your artist is here.
Yeah.
How did you find him? How did you? Did he also invent the iconography and all of that?
Yeah. So the artist for Distilled is Eric Evanson, and he actually is a good friend of mine. He's a professor at my university as well.
Oh, it's amazing.
So I've got all the connections. Actually, half of my team is professors at the university. My editor for my rule book is a professor at the university. The guy that scripted the TTS, the tabletop simulator mod, is professor. Anyway, so Eric, very talented. He's an illustrator. He's actually a comic book author and illustrator as well.
Wow.
And so I reached out to him once I realized I had this idea of making this game. I thought, I'm going to ask Eric. If Eric says yes, I'm going to self-publish it. If Eric says no, I'm going to try and take it to a publisher. And so because Eric said yes, that's why Papers and Games exists. That's why our publishing company exists as well. And he's phenomenal. He's not only an illustrator, obviously all the artwork in the game, but he's also a graphic designer, which is like a unicorn in the industry. Usually someone's an artist or a graphic designer. Only rarely do they do both, and they like to do both. They always can, but do they want to? Do they like to? Yeah. So yeah, Eric came up with the iconography. Obviously, he and I kind of working together on all of that stuff. All the characters. Oftentimes, I would say, I want this type of character from this region, but then I let him go wild with it. So lots of those characters are kind of from Eric's imagination as well.
That's great. And in one of the, I don't know if it was a promo pack or the expansion, one of the bottles is just someone's head. Is that your head?
Yes.
That is fantastic.
So
I love it.
So that bottle, so it's in the promo pack. And I said to him, I want an absinthe bottle because even though absinthe, it's a long story, but basically absinthe actually is more like a liqueur. It's not necessarily a distilled spirit. But I knew an absinthe bottle would be something fun for people to have as one of the bottles. And I said, how about for the other ones, just do a designer bottle, like something really fancy that shows off like a cool design or something like that. And so the next thing I know, Eric plays a pun on that word and says, yeah, sure, I'll make you a designer bottle, as in Dave is the designer, so it's Dave's head.
So that's why it's called designer bottle?
Yep.
Yeah,
that is the most, besides the box, that is the most requested autograph card. So I'll have to autograph your card.
That's totally true.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so let's move on from Distilled for a minute.
Yeah.
You have announced, it was I think September of last year, that you're going to make another game, Luthier.
Yep, that's right.
And this was a collaboration between you and Abraham
Burson.
Burson.
Yep.
So how did all this come about?
Yeah, okay. So another, I think, kind of interesting story. So way back pre-pandemic, I came home from Scotland. I've got a paper prototype of Distilled. I take it to a Protospiel. For those out there that don't know, Protospiel is kind of like a mini conference for designers where they bring their basically pencil and paper prototypes. They don't look good yet. And they're trying, and they don't play well sometimes too. And they're trying to get people to play them. Play testers can play too. So fans of that, it's kind of like Unpub is a good example of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I took it Distilled there for the first ever time. And another person, Abraham Burson, he had this game called Luthier there. He had been working on it for 10 years. So he'd been really working on it for a long time. Passion project as well.
Yep.
He's a guitarist. Luthier means that you're a maker of musical instruments that are in the strings family, or a repairer as well.
The string-necked instruments.
Exactly. Yes, good. So I played it. It had an interesting kind of mechanism that I hadn't seen before in the game. And the theme was, I don't actually play musical instruments. I love music, but the theme was interesting to me too, intriguing. And then that was it. And that was 2020, January 2020. Fast forward a couple years later, and I started thinking about like, what's Papers and Games' next game? Because I loved the process of Distilled. I love designing it, but I also love the company side, like interacting with backers, the community, stuff like this, right? Like, I love all this stuff. So what's the next step? And I remembered back to playing Abe's game, and I thought, I wonder what he's doing with that. So I reached out to him, and he's like, yeah, I haven't really touched it that much since then, because I think it's been just a slow burn for him, passion project. And I said, what do you think if Papers and Games were to publish it and you and I co-design it? Basically, I'll kind of tear it down to its studs and rebuild it kind of in a little same theme, same core mechanic, but then we'll kind of do other things there. He's like, let's do it. So that's what we're doing. We've done this co-design where I'm also working with Richard Woods, who's our developer for Distilled and for Luthier. He's amazing. He's over in the UK. So we kind of work as a team as well. And yeah, it's going to be coming to crowdfunding in probably May or June of 2024.
Okay. So a little bit of time. Prepare yourselves.
That's right.
Yeah, I also play guitar. So
awesome. Look at this. I'm just like, what can I make for Spencer?
Exactly. Now, if you can do a game about dinosaurs.
That's overdone. I can't do it.
dinosaurs drinking alcohol.
Now we're talking.
Oh man! And so, what is this new mechanic? Or am I allowed to ask?
Happy to. Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about luthier. So, picture you are the head of a family, a luthier or instrument making family in the golden age of classical music. So we're in Europe. We're making instruments. It might be violins, but also other instruments. Might be a harp, or maybe it's a trumpet, or maybe it's a harpsichord for patrons, famous patrons. Some are composers like Bach and Beethoven. Some are nobles like the Medici family or King Leopold. It could be anyone, right? These are all characters in the game. Your family is basically workers. This is a hidden bidding worker placement game. Okay. So I've got a collection of workers, three chips, if you will, that are, think of them as kind of poker chips. On the top is nothing, but on the bottom of it is a number, 1, 3, or 5. 5 is you, the master of your workshop. 1 is probably your kid that started working the workshop yesterday, right? Not much skill, not much power. Mm-hmm. What happens is, let's say out on the main board, I want to go attract a new patron. That patron maybe wants a violin, and I know how to make violins, so I want to tell that patron, yes, I'd be happy to make one for you. I'm going to send one of my workers out there, one of my chips, out to that spot, but I'm going to put it face down. You don't know who I sent. Okay, you don't know if I sent my kid to try and get this patron or myself, like 5 or 3 or whatever. I'm going to send it there, but maybe you happen to want a patron too. You can send it to the same spot, face down.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and maybe all 4 players, let's just say all 4 players at the table want that, and all of a sudden we've got a stack of chips there, a stack of workers there. We do that. All of the workers get placed on the whole table. Then in the resolution phase, the next phase, one by one in these locations, we resolve them. We lay those chips out in order of whoever got there first. So if I went there first, I get first pick at the patron. But wait a minute, you sent your 5 and I sent my 1. You elbow to the front of the line. Now you get first choice.
So if someone else comes with a 5, you're still
Yep, and so you're moving ahead. Now, the thing is, there's multiple options at every single spot. So even if you stole out from under me that patron that I really wanted, there's other patrons, there's other actions as well that I get to do at that spot. In fact, if you send a higher skilled worker there, like a 4 or 5 skilled worker, you get to do some bonuses as well that no others can't. Well, what that means is if there's 7 locations across the board that I have to choose where I send my workers, I can't always send my 5 to the one spot. Like, you know, right? They only go to one spot. So it's really interesting to try and figure out, like, getting ahead of other people, like where they're going to go, where are they sending? Because you got to remember, you're making instruments. So at your workshop in front of you, which is your own player board, you've got locations as well that nobody else can mess with, right? To place that down. Well, I'm probably going to be putting some of my best workers on those to be able to make the best possible instruments as well. So you really need to figure out where you're going to send these workers out. So it's hidden bidding worker placement, definitely some tableau building, because as you complete the patrons, they unlock powers that nobody else at the table will have that you'll have. Definitely some resource management, and for sure recipe fulfillment. So there's definitely some tinges of Distilled in here, because again, essentially when I craft an instrument, it's going to require certain resources that I need to obtain and fulfill that recipe for perhaps that instrument as well as that patron. So yeah, we're looking at around a 3.5 on the BGG scale, so a little heavier than Distilled, which is at around a 3, but that same connection between theme and mechanics. And lastly, I'll say that we're really excited. Vincent Dutrain is going to be doing all the artwork for Luthier as well.
Great, I love it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of an apprentice journeyman master relationship.
Yes, very much so.
I'm going to send my apprentice out. Are you able to upgrade them, your own workers?
Yes. Oh, good. Oh, yeah.
See,
remember, I'm making it for you, dude. So getting back to the apprentice part, you start with your number 1, number 3, and number 5 worker. Your family is that size. If you need to have extra, let's just say power, skill, you can hire apprentices from the local school for a one-time bonus. So for instance, let's say my 3, I need to be a 4. I can hire an apprentice, and all of a sudden now that's a 4 because I send my apprentice with it. So you'll see that stack, that little stack. That after it's done, that apprentice goes back to school. So it's back to a 3, but I might allowed to be able to kind of boost ahead of you because of that. So that's one thing with the apprentice. But also, as the game goes, in the kind of as you get to the 3rd and the 5th round, your family grows. So then all of a sudden you have 4 chips. And then finally you have 5 chips, 5 different workers. So a table of 4 has 20 workers out on the board. That the stacks get pretty tall as far as who's trying to vie for what.
Yeah.
And then if you choose to specialize in certain areas, maybe that's performing, because you can perform music in this as well, or perhaps maybe it's crafting. If you move up a track far enough, you're going to be able to upgrade and make your workers specialized to have some sort of power that nobody else at the table has when you send your worker to certain spots.
Wow, there's so much in this.
Get ready.
Yeah, and you have like expansions for that one in mind? Or?
Yeah, we've got some. Like one thing I want to recognize is the fact that in Distilled, we were really proud about the idea that we're representing diverse cultures from all around the world. And I'm fully aware that right now we're focusing like in Europe. So one thing we really want to do is start to expand to other types of music around the world. So we're thinking about that for expansions.
Oh, yeah.
But also, this goes from the Baroque time period through the Romantic. So it's only a couple hundred years of music history, if you will, in one exact location. So yeah, I've done my research as well. And so we want to think about other time periods as well. So there's a lot of potential in the future for Luthier.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, we're excited.
And like, imagine you getting it like into modern age.
That's right.
Oh, I'm excited. I kind of want this, but I gotta wait.
You gotta wait.
So it's gonna Kickstarter is gonna hit in, you said, May of next year.
Yeah, probably around May, June of next year. We're gonna have it where people can play just a couple rounds at Gen Con this year.
Oh, I'm gonna be there.
Yeah, so they can sign up and play for just a couple rounds just to get a taste of it. Obviously, it'll still be prototype, right? So we'll have some art there. Some of Vincent's artwork will be there. I'm working with the graphic design team, Matt Paquette and co. So we're going to have some of the graphic design implemented as well. But we've got a long way to go. Yeah. And I'll be obviously helping people know that too. But we feel like the gameplay is getting there. It's probably around like 85%, 75 to 85% done for the gameplay. We're just kind of tweaking and balancing things now. So that'll also be good to get feedback from people like you, like after you get that play experience too.
Yeah, we'll be very happy to playtest any of the stuff you want to send us, or review anything you want to send us, or anything like that. Oh, man, so do you have anything else you'd like to tell anybody about?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think, again, we're really happy, and I just want to thank everybody out there for your support for Distilled. We had some tricky kind of things for logistics and fulfillment, and we all were able to get through it. I wouldn't be here today at all without the support of all the backers out there, all 8,000 of you. And we really hope that we can kind of knock it out of the park with Luthier as well next year.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here without your support either. Maybe not all of his backers, but with our backers. And maybe we can combine forces.
Our powers combine!
Yes! So if you're going to be at Origins, you're at Origins, come on by. If you are going to be at Gen Con, check them out, check us out, and So, for the Board Game Rundown, I'm Spencer.
I'm Dave.
And I hope you have a good one.